Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter and welcome to my weekly episode. This is episode number 217 for May the 23rd, 2023, and I hope you had a good week. And to all my Canadian subscribers, I hope you had a good long weekend because we just celebrated the 24th of May, the Victoria Day weekend. So there was probably fireworks somewhere in your area last night. And yeah, it was a nice weekend. And for the most part, the weather wasn't too bad either. We had a little rain. It was a little cool. It was a little warm. So we had a little bit of everything. Okay, let's jump right into my projects. Yes, I have harped on this a while. I will try to keep this shorter. If you've seen Stephen and Walter Live this past week, and if you saw my vlog yesterday, you know what I'm going to say about this project. This is the Healing Waters quilt. The pattern is by Patty's Patchwork. Patty Carey, I think, is her name. I have done one of her patterns before, and it was the quilt from hell. Her instructions for making something are very confusing, not accurate, and this one was no different. Excuse me, frog in my throat. This is the quilt from hell number 2. As I said on Stephen and Walter Live and yesterday on my vlog, I should have known better than to buy her patterns because they're nothing but painful, to say the least. And this one was as well. Yes, it turned out not too badly, but there are definite errors in this. And if you really took the time to study it, you would see where I've had to make some corrections the best I could. I went over those on Stephen and Walter Live. I'm not going to spend time today talking about these either. I just want to know what it is about some pattern designers who just, they obviously, this one especially, obviously created this on a program or something and did not make the quilt and write the pattern from the made quilt and never tested it or never had it tested. Because if it did, the glaring errors would have shown up. Now, I would just, for example, about a glaring error, you'll notice, let's call these columns, okay? If I don't know if you can see my arrow or not on here, but here's a column. Then this section in here where the flying geese go across the top down to here is a column, then a middle column, then the fourth column where all these flying geese go across in the big panel here, and then the last column. Okay, you can see there's a number of flying geese in all of this. Well, when you do the math, these flying geese measure 4 inches by 2 inches finished, 2.5 by 4.5 inches unfinished, which is a weird size to start with. If you look at rulers that cut things down for this, like the Ultimate Flying Geese ruler, which I love to use, it doesn't do 2.5 by 4.5 unfinished. Anyways, I did make the flying geese according to her specifications. And then you put them all together. You put in these joining blocks, which are 4.5 inch squares, unfinished. And if you do the math on all of this, take into account the 1/4 inch seam allowance, this comes out to about 56.5 inches, I believe. But when you take this column that you're going to attach this to and measure it from top to bottom using all of her measurements, it comes out to 56.5 inches. Do you see the problem? This column is 2.5 inches smaller than this column. Yes. So that meant I had to get rid of one set of flying geese, and it also meant that things don't line up the way they should. If you look in column number 2, this one with the piece of a panel and a panel here, something similar happened in the measurements for these across. You got, notice here, the little flying geese. Let's call it a baby goose. And you'll see this baby goose in several other spots around here too. That's because I had to cut it off to get it to line up. But even after doing that, these black squares do not line up where they should. If you were to see, now this picture doesn't show the seam very well, but if you were to see the seam, it does not line up with the seam above it. again, measurements are off completely. So I struggled with this, and I will never, ever, ever do another pattern by this lady, Patty's Patchworks. She obviously doesn't test her patterns at all. And I went to her website and looked to see if there were corrections for this pattern. She had corrections for almost all of her patterns, lots of corrections. She didn't have this one. So, I've even been to my local quilting store, and I was telling the owner about the problems I've had with this lady's patterns, and I was told, oh, yes, she won't even carry these patterns in her store because of the number of complaints she's had from customers. So it's done. The top is done. It doesn't look too badly. Just don't look at it too closely because things are not lining up the way they're supposed to with it. So, yeah, bad pattern writing. Love the fabric, love the design, hate the instructions. And it's not because I'm not a rank amateur anymore. Okay? I know what I was doing. And I even sat down and analyzed this pattern before I started to cut fabric. But in the process of sewing it together, this is what I found. And it's just simply her math is wrong. Okay, that's all I want to say about this particular pattern. I hate it. I hate the pattern. I don't hate the quilt right now, but the quilt is not the way it was supposed to be. Okay, let's move on before I do some more cursing about this. Anytime I look at this quilt, I'm back on it. I'm even seriously considering not even bothering to put it on Lucy and to quilt it. Yeah, that's how frustrated I am with it. I don't know. I probably will because I don't like leaving something unfinished no matter what. But yeah, that's my feelings about this. Okay, let us move on, shall we, to what has happened in the last week besides that disaster. Well, we had our weekly sewing with Stephanie and Stephen. That was last Wednesday morning, and actually that ran for almost the entire day. And it does happen sometimes. When Stephanie and I first started this as a regular feature, a Zoom kind of a thing on Wednesday morning starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we thought we'd only go for, generally speaking, until maybe 10:30. But if we're not busy doing something else that day, we don't have any other plans, we make it into a sew day, and we're often here until at least noon. And lately we've been here on a whole day. So come and join us. And if you can't join us at 9 a.m. in the morning Eastern Time, you can pop in later, see if we're here. And if we are, sure, great. If you can only spare an hour or something like that, that's fine. Whatever. It's a come and go as you please kind of thing. So, of course, we are having it again this week. So that's tomorrow, Wednesday, the 24th of May, and starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And the link's in the show notes below. I did have a pop-up sew day last Saturday. Last Saturday. And that was great. There were about 30 some of us on there, and we sewed all day and had great conversation as we always do. Next pop-up sew day, not sure. Probably won't be until late June because, as you know, I'm off to the Canadian Quilt Show in Halifax in another week and a half. We leave here on the 4th of June, and we're driving. So, we're going to spend some time in Quebec City, then into Fredericton, and then to Halifax. And we're also going to spend some time around seeing, Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, all that kind of stuff. The East Coast. We haven't been there in years. So that means that I will not be having Craft and Chat the first Wednesday of June because we will be away. So I'm thinking, okay, to make up for that, I will have a pop-up sew day, but it won't be until we come back. So I haven't got a date set for that. Watch this space for an announcement about the date for it. And if you'd like to be on the mailing list for that, just drop me a line. My email address is in the show notes below, and I'll be happy to add you to the pop-up Sew Day mailing list. Also, if you'd like to be part of the Craft and Chat mailing list, do the same thing. Or tell me you want to be on all my mailing lists. Those two anyways. Okay, so that takes me to a haul. Now, I have talked a little bit about this, and I don't want it to sound like a broken record either. But when we were out west, I went to a cute quilt store. It was in a house on a farm. They had goats, called Chitter Chatter. I love the name, Chitter Chatter Quilts. So I thought I might also purchase some products from them at their online store. Now, I did review their online store as well a week or two ago, and they had sent me, bless their hearts, they sent me a $50 gift certificate to use in their store or on their online. That was completely out of the blue, completely unexpected. And they sent that to me because they appreciated the fact that I had reviewed their store. So, I mean, yeah. So I thought, oh yeah, I need to spend this. So off I went to the store. Now, of course, I spent more than $50, but that's not hard to do. And I decided to get a couple of bundles and a couple of bundles of batiks. And you see both of them there. Now, I already talked about this on So Chatty. There was a little bit of confusion. I thought I was getting two different bundles. Partially my fault, partially their fault, and I'm not going to get into it because, you know, it's okay. They're batiks, and I love batiks, and I can never have too many batiks, so I'm okay with this. But yeah, that's all I need to say about that. And I bought this layer cake of chroma because I have chroma in yardage, and I think I have it in some charm packs too, and I really love the chroma. So I thought, yeah, they had, I don't know if that one was on sale, the bundles were on sale, but I thought I'd pick that up when I saw it. So I got this, and yeah, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with their service. They have a good selection online, and I don't think you can go wrong. And the shipping was very reasonable as well via Canada Post. And it came fairly quickly as well. So yeah, you want to explore something new? Check out Chitter Chatter. All right. And, okay, then I got something else. And this is how it came to me, okay? You know I buy pre-wound bobbins, and I buy them in gross lots, meaning a box of 144, and I get them for about $25.99 from Monfil. Great online sewing store. Lots of things on Monfil. I buy things from them all the time. Absolutely love their customer service. Absolutely love their products. Absolutely love their prices. And I was getting low on bobbins, and so I decided the last time I went looking for bobbins on their site, they were out. And they said, you know, you could put in your email address and their system would send you a message when the bobbins came in. Well, just by chance, I went and checked because I hadn't seen an email from them. And I don't know, there might be something wrong with their system or whatever that does that. I'll be honest, Monfil does have some problems with their online system. Minor ones, little glitches on that. And I think they're constantly trying to fix it. And so, yeah. But anyways, I had a glitch with this order. I ordered 4 boxes of these bobbins, and they came by Canada Post. And the first thing I should have realized, knowing that something was gone awry with my package, was that Canada Post had their own plastic bag around the shipping box. Canada Post does not usually do that. You don't usually get something from Canada Post where Canada Post has put their own bag around it. They will do that when something is busted. When the original shipping container, box, whatever you want to call it, from the company you've ordered from, has been damaged and things are falling out. So opened it up, and 3 out of the 4 boxes were intact, but one of the boxes, this box, was not. Basically, I don't know if you notice it, but up in the right corner of the box, it had opened up. It came apart. And this is what the bobbins look like. And there were loose bobbins all in the main shipping box and bobbins all awry. And you can see they're starting to unwind and the whole bit. I was not thrilled with this. So I contacted Monfil and I told them how it came. And Monfil said, now I said to him, I don't know if it was a problem with Canada Post, the way they handled the package. I don't know if it's a problem with your shipping department. I don't know if it's a problem with your supplier. But there was a problem. And Johnny, the owner of the company, or at least the manager, I'm not sure which he is, but he's usually the person I deal with all the time. And Johnny's great, great customer service. He said, we usually tape the boxes because the boxes probably come from the supplier, and they're, the supplier's probably in China, so the boxes aren't the best. And they say they usually put tape around the edges of the box to make sure this doesn't happen. This didn't have tape around it. It slipped by somehow. So he'd be definitely going into the shipping department and talking to them about that. In the meantime, he said on my next order, he'd throw in a free spool of thread, which is very nice of him. I can use these bobbins. This is not a problem. Some of you might say, well, maybe he should have given you replace the box of bobbins. Don't think we need to go through that. These are fine. I've got them straightened around now and everything, and they will work. So yeah, not too worried about that. But I just want to bring this up to you that, in this day and age of online commerce, if you get something and you're not 100% satisfied, you really need to let the company you're dealing with know. They usually appreciate that because they don't know. They assume everything's okay unless you tell them otherwise. And if they're good customer service like Monfil is, they will rectify the situation for you one way or another. So that is why I send companies when things don't come exactly the way you expect them, or there's a problem with the order. That's why I make sure that I send them an email, a friendly email. I don't immediately jump down their throat or anything about that. Especially a company like Monfil that I've been dealing with now for years, and absolutely know that they have the customer in mind first. I'm certainly not going to jump down their throat, but I know Johnny would appreciate to know about this problem. And as I said, he immediately went off to rectify it. So don't be afraid to do that. If you just turn around and say, well, I'm never going to order from that company again, well, the company doesn't get a chance to improve. They think everything is fine. And I think in this day and age of competition, and there's a lot of online competition, I think, definitely it behooves you not to let the company know. In a friendly manner, of course. Okay, so those are things that I got this week. Now, what else happened this week? Well, you saw in my header that I had some broken machines. Yes. So I'm merrily sewing away, making these simple tote bags. And they're lined tote bags, so I'm putting handles on them. And the handles, go on the inside between the lining and the outside of the bag, and away you go and sew them. Well, I've been clipping them, but sometimes when I get them on the sewing machine, the clips don't hold them as securely as I want, and they go a little crooked, and I have to straighten them out manually. And plus, I was thinking maybe I could make these bags faster on my serger. So I get out my serger, and I don't use my serger that much. Only when I need napkins, basically. So I decided I would use the serger for this, and I also decided, and this is where things went wrong, I would pin the handle on the bag when it was going, through the serger. Now, I do know I am an idiot, but I'm not that big an idiot. Well, yeah, maybe I am. I do know, never, ever run over a needle, a pin in your serger, because you can damage your cutting blade. I know that. I never use pins on my serger. I always use clips. But this time, for whatever reason, I decide to use a pin. And I'm saying to myself, now be careful. When you're getting close to the blade, stop, take the pin out, carry on. But I had a squirrel moment. And it was too late. I hit the pin. I heard the blade go clunk. And I went, oh, crap. So, yes, I broke the blade. Didn't hurt the pin, which I find amazing. Broke the blade. And I went, crap. So I took it down to Ultimate Sewing to have it serviced. Now, I haven't got it back yet. That was last Tuesday. I expect to get it back this week. Just haven't put a new blade on. I could probably do it myself, but I didn't have a spare blade. So I just figured let Roy, the technician, service guy at Ultimate Sewing, he knows what he's doing, and let him do it. Yes, it's going to cost me some money. I don't know how much. Depends on how much the blade is and what they charge for labor, but I'm anticipating it costs me as much as $150 for this. I know some of you are gasping and going, oh, why couldn't you just get a new blade and put it on yourself? Well, yeah, except that they probably didn't have any blades in stock, and I'd have to wait for them to be ordered. And the way things go when you order things through Ultimate Sewing these days, through their suppliers and stuff, I might not see that blade for months. So I decided, just let the service guy do it because he has them on hand. Okay, so I said I didn't have a spare blade. Here's another part of the idiot part. On Pop-Up Sew Day, one of my friends on there, she says to me, well, didn't your serger come with a spare blade? I went, I don't know. Let me look. So I grabbed the little case with all the accessories that came with my serger when I first bought it, and looked in there, and lo and behold, yes, I had a spare blade. I could have probably have fixed that thing within 5 minutes with the spare blade, saved myself some money. I'm an idiot. Yeah. Well, I know now that I have a spare blade if this ever happens again, and it's not going to, he says. But yeah, so there you go. And Walter says, well, he didn't think he got a spare blade with his serger. He immediately went looking and went, oh, he's got one too. Yeah, learn something new every day. Shout out to Jan. Thanks for that. Okay, another machine broke. Well, it didn't actually break. It was still working. And that was my iron, my very expensive, reliable tank iron, my $600 iron. The weird smell coming off it. Smelled like someone had taken a crayon and pushed it up against, it was melting it on the sole plate. But that wasn't what was happening. I still don't know where the smell is coming from. It's not electrical burn. It's not coming from the outlet. It's definitely coming from the iron itself. I looked to make sure there was nothing on the sole plate, and everything was clean. I even cleaned it again. So we took it into Reliable. Reliable's just on the west side of Toronto. It's about 40 minutes away from us. It's not far. So in we went. Now, I was talking about customer service. Wow. From the moment you walked in the door of that place to the moment we left, the people working there that I was dealing with couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been more efficient, more organized. I was really impressed. Long story short, I've left the iron. They don't know why it was smelling either. In fact, it didn't smell when they plugged it in and got it heated up. Go figure that, right? But anyways, there was a minor problem with it. One of the hoses that attaches to the iron itself, it's frayed. And so I said, they wanted to do a little bit more testing, so I left it there. They're going to replace that hose. I said, do whatever you need to do to this iron. That's fine. This is not going to be necessarily cheap. They charge you $65 for the initial inspection, and then it's $125 an hour for labor plus parts. However, if you leave it there, they find there's something wrong with it and they fix it, then they credit to your final bill that $65 for the inspection. So I'm anticipating this is going to cost me probably $150, $175, maybe $200. I don't know. But when you spend that kind of money on an iron anyways, you have to be prepared to spend some money in maintenance. And that's the way I'm looking at it. So for now, I'm using my old Olicio. I remember now why I do not like the Olicio. But anyways, that's got me through what I've been doing this week. And I'm hoping that I'll get a call from them or an email from them telling me, sometime this week we can go in and pick it up. So yeah, 2 machines. But wait, there's more. My embroidery machine. I've been using it quite a bit lately. Now, I keep it cleaned and oiled regularly, but I'm only oiling it where the bobbin case is. I can't get easily at the other oiling points in the machine. And I was thinking to myself, I haven't taken it in for servicing in quite some time. And even though I keep it oiled and keep it cleaned, to get to those other points, I should let a professional look after it. And it was starting to make some kind of grindy like noises, which meant something's dry in there. So Walter has taken his apart before, and he has the same machine as I do, and he has been able to oil it fairly successfully. So I said, okay. And we actually did take the machine apart and oil it ourselves back a couple of years ago, too. It's a bit of a bitch the first time you do it, but it can be done. And, he remembered how we got into everything. I didn't. Anyways, I said to him, this was Saturday during pop-up sew day. I said about doing that. And I said, well, let's on Sunday, pull it apart and let's oil it and everything. Well, that was the plan. I get up Sunday morning. I come down here and there's a note on the embroidery machine. It's from my little fix-it elf, i.e. Walter. I go to bed way before Walter does. He's a nighthawk. So he decided, he'd come down and oil it. So he took it apart, oiled all the points and that, and it purrs like a kitten. It's amazing what difference oiling makes. And he showed me a couple of spots that I can get at too readily that I didn't know I could, and how to, what to do with those. So that was great. But yeah, that was a nice surprise on Sunday morning. Down my machine is purring like a kitten. So yes, thanks to my fix-it elf. Okay, everybody should have a Walter. And I know many of you have told me that. And okay, so let's go to a demo. I thought that I would talk a little bit about my design wall. Now, in this space that I have, and it's a fairly large space, I do not have wall space to put up a permanent design wall. But you can see right over my left shoulder, this is my left, yeah, there's what looks like a curtain hanging from my fabric shelves. That's my design wall. And so I'm going to show you, it's a very simple idea. It's not my idea. I'm sure I picked it up somewhere else, but it's working out for me very well. So I thought I would talk a little bit about, in case you have limited space, how you can have a design wall that is, there when you need it and out of the way when you don't. Okay, if you're like me, you probably don't have a lot of room in your sewing area for a design wall. And it would be great if we could all just have like a permanent design wall that we didn't have to put up or take down or move out of the way, so that, on a moment's notice, we could just throw up our blocks and arrange them. That would be the ideal. And some people are lucky enough to have a space like that, but I am not one of them. But this is my design wall, and I'm going to show you how I make this very functional, and it works very well for me. And it's within minutes I can put it up, actually within seconds. So here you see my bookcase, or my fabric case with all my fabrics on it. But if you look at the top, I have a curtain rod that I mounted across that bookshelf top. And on that, I have hung a portable display board. This is one that's from Fons and Porter. It has grid on one side in vinyl, on the other side is the flannel, and things will stick to it. But if you don't want to go this route, it's really easy to go to the dollar store and pick up a flannel-backed vinyl tablecloth, punch a few holes in the top of it, or if you want to get fancy, insert a couple of grommets, and use those as your system for hanging. I'm just using these little rings at the top that actually clip. They don't even need to use the holes that are already in the display wall. I just clip them onto it. So I'm going to show you how this works. So generally, I don't have the display wall up because I like to see my pretty fabrics. But when I need it, I just undo this ribbon and I just slide it across. And I have a couple of command hooks up here to mount it on. And on the edges, I have got some Velcro strips that are also on the edges of this bookshelf. And this just helps to keep this display board a little more taut. And there you have it, my display wall. As simple as that. And as I said, it's very user-friendly in this space in terms of it doesn't take up a space. And you saw how quickly it was for me to get it out. When I want to put it away, I just loosen off the Velcro strips on the sides and hook it here at the top. Pull it across like a curtain. I have another little hook over to the side that just keeps it over to this one side here. And I just throw on my little tie ribbon. And there we are. Simple as that. So you can see, you can make a display wall pretty easily. That'll fit possibly into any area of your sewing room. So yeah, that works really well. And of course, I use a Fons and Porter design wall, but you want to know something? You could do the same thing with a cheap vinyl tablecloth that has a flannel backing that you can get at most dollar stores. So, you know, you can do this on a budget. Okay, so let's go to subscribers quilted this week. This comes from one of my regular viewers, Diana Corday, and she has a beautiful creation she wanted to share with us. This week's quilt is from Diana Corday, and Diana Corday has been a regular viewer of the Idiot Quilter for quite some time now, and she has sent us some other pictures of some of her other lovely creations, and this is her latest, and it is a mystery quilt made, well, it's not that late. She says she made it a few years ago, so this isn't something new. It is a small throw quilt backed with fleece and quilted with rulers on my domestic sewing machine. The purple around the edges is a wide binding made to look like a border from fabric left over from the quilt. Okay, so this is really quite an interesting approach to quilting. This purple around the edges is a wide binding made to look like a border. That is something that's I have not seen before. Kind of an interesting take on combining borders and binding and the whole bit. Now let's take a look, see if we can take a little closer look at the quilting, because she says she did with rulers on her domestic machine, and I have to admire anybody who is able to do that. And yes, a wonderful job. The quilting really enhances the overall quilt design, and yeah, I just love it. And I love the colors in here too. And putting this shade of green with the blues, I would not have thought of that, but it definitely does work in the case of this quilt. And I noticed that you pieced the border as well. So this is a really lovely creation, Diana, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. So that takes me to the YouTube of the week. This is somebody I just recently discovered, and it's somebody who does not have a lot of subscribers yet, but I think that could change. In fact, I'm thinking of reaching out to this person for an interview, and I love the name of this YouTube channel. It's called Kickass Quilts. This week's YouTube channel is called Kickass Quilts, and I have to admit I know very little about this because I just discovered it literally minutes before I decided to review this site. But it had some interesting features on it that I thought I'd like to check out. So if you look at their home page, you can see they talk about sustainable quilting, which I don't know anything about that, so I'll have to watch those videos and see what they mean by that. A taste of quilting, memory quilt, Quilt Chronicles, a collective story of meaning of quilts. That sounds intriguing. And then there's something about Uganda, quilting in Uganda. That might be interesting. Designing my Kenyan, why can't I say that word? Kenyan quilt. Well, you know the place, whatever. But let's just take a look at the playlists to get a sense of what's here. Creative mindfulness, Purple Pineapple Picnic Quilt and Passion. Donated material, sustainable quilting. Updates about the community. Quilting and Memory Quilt, Uganda. So there's not a lot of videos on here, 136 it says, but they look very intriguing, especially these travel videos that are related to quilting. Um, so yeah, I think this site is really worth browsing through. I think there's some things to be learned here, and it looks kind of different from what you usually find for quilting YouTube channels. So check out Kickass Quilts. So next up is a future project. This is a pattern called My Road to Oklahoma, which looks really interesting. This week's pattern for future consideration comes from the book Quilt in a Day, Go Cube. This is a book I bought as a companion piece to my AccuQuilt cube dies. And this particular one is called My Road to Oklahoma. And the reason why it appealed to me was not because of the colors or nor their choice of fabrics. And I think their choice of fabrics, they say in this picture, were Civil War reproduction fabric. But I like the stars. And you know, I'm always a sucker for stars. And this one looks like it would go together, well, pretty quickly. I don't imagine that border that's all made up of little tiny squares is actually made up of tiny little squares. It's probably strips of fabric. And I'm just looking to see if it tells you this on here. Yeah, I'm just looking for, and I think what they do is probably make strips and then cut the strips down. Oh, not necessarily. No, but anyways, I think you could do it that way. But I think it is a fairly straightforward and easy pattern. And of course, because it's an AccuQuilt pattern, it's going to be really quick and accurate for cutting out the pieces. But it does appeal to me. It's one on my list of things to do. It makes not a bad size quilt, 60 by 80 inches, it says. And yeah, I think this is one that I want to do at some point. But then I've got a lot of quilts I want to do, don't I? So I don't have any interviews to tease you with this week. And I'm always out there looking for new people to interview. So if you have some suggestions, possibly people you've stumbled across on YouTube that, you know, maybe just getting started on YouTube, I would love to know who they are. If you can find any contact information for them, please do. And I will investigate their YouTube channel and I'll see if I can arrange an interview with them if I think that this would be something that people would be interested in. Okay, so that takes me to online fabric stores, and this week is one that I visited in Nanaimo when we were out west. It's called Snip and Stitch. And I'll tell you right up front, I was a little disappointed with their online presence. I love their brick and mortar store, but, well, you'll see what I mean. This week's online quilt store is called Snip and Stitch Sewing Center. This is in Nanaimo, BC, out on the island. And we visited this store, and it was a great store. And you've probably seen the video of what the store inside looks like already. But now I thought we'd check out their online presence here. So this is their homepage, and they have the usual things you'd expect at the top. They've got a calendar of events coming up. Click on boxes in the brochure to go directly to the class. So that's interesting. They have an online brochure for their classes. They've got something coming up very soon, quilt show and sale. And they've advertising some of their specials that they have as well. Talk about holiday closures and their hours for their store. Okay, well, let's jump right into shopping. So it looks like a web store. So we'll go there. And they have furniture, gift cards, kits, classes, machines. Do they not have fabric online? I know they have lots of fabric. Well, let's check out kits and see what's in here. One kit. All right. Nice looking quilt though. 322. Solar block of the month kit. It's a block of the month one. Well, but there's only one. Okay, let's go back into the store and see what else they got. Gift cards, chairs, classes. Well, they seem to be pushing their classes. They have garment classes, clubs and cafe, embroidery software, guide lessons, machinery, embroidery, and sewing techniques, Ron Collins, and special events, ruler and quilt classes, serger zone, UFO. Okay, let's see. What have they got here? Okay, so these are classes going to show you how to do some free motion quilting. Classes are not particularly cheap. Maybe they're over a period of many days. I don't know. Okay. But where's their fabric? They don't seem to have any fabric. They do sell sewing machines. Berninas and Genomes. Looks like they have a fair selection of machines as well. And they do. Okay. But I don't see any fabric. This is supplies for the machine for your classes. Registration. Let's go back to home. Okay. Well, I don't see any fabric online. That I find very weird. Just for the sake of things, let's do a search with the word fabric. Maybe I missed something. Okay. Nope. Nothing really here. Nope. Not a thing. Well, that is very disappointing. It looks like their online store presence is simply to sell furniture, gift cards, kits, one kit, and classes and sewing machines. They don't sell their fabric online. Well, that's too bad because they had a great selection of fabric in the actual store. So I'm a little disappointed. What more can I say about this? I mean, if you want to go and check out their classes, if you're in the area, you're going to be out there, then by all means, this may be the spot to go. But if you're looking to buy anything, except maybe a sewing machine or a gift card, then Snip and Stitch's Sewing Center is not really the best website for buying anything else but. So that brings me pretty much to the end of today's episode, except with what I'm doing this coming week. Well, I'm going to work on the Healing Waters quilt that I talked about at the beginning of the episode. See if I can get it onto Lucy and get it quilted. Also going to want to get started on what I'm going to call from here on in my sister-in-law's quilt. I have a pattern that I shared with you last week, Mirror Mirror, that I want to get started on. And I have a sew day coming up. Not for you, for me. Walter's online sewing class, the organizer of that, the teacher of that class, is going to have an in-person sew day at our club here in my city. And I've been to them before. Very small group, usually only about 4 of us. But, you know, it's a different venue. It's different people. It's just fun to get out for the day and get some work done and, you know, share with a few other people. Now, of course, I'm the only quilter in the group pretty much. Well, I think there's one other lady who has done some quilts before, but the rest of them are all garment sewers. So it's kind of interesting, you know, also while I'm quilting or working on a quilt, listening to what they're talking about as they make garments and things like that. Doesn't mean I'm going to make a garment soon. Although I've played with the idea of trying my hand at shirt making as well. I don't know. I think I'd get too frustrated with that. Leave it to Walter. He's the expert. But anyways, that's coming up on Saturday for Walter and I. So that's going to be nice. And of course, we have the East Coast trip. I think everything's in place now. We know where we're staying, where we're going. We know what we're doing, and looking very much forward to it, especially to the quilt show and especially to meeting up with some of you, because there's a few of you going out there and we're having a meet and greet, and to meet up with Stephanie Stitches as well. Steffi and I have become really good friends online. It's going to be really nice to see each other in person as well. So looking forward to all of those things as well. So tune in later this week for the next episode of So Chatty. Have no idea what we're talking about. Never do. Make it up as we go along. And of course, Stephen and Walter live on Sunday. So I hope you have a great week. Maybe see some of you at the So with Stephanie and Stephen session tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And yeah, have a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.